Nikki Haley has to make up a lot of ground against Donald Trump in Iowa. New Hampshire is a little bit closer. She sees sort of an opening there. And so she's gonna focus on attacking Donald Trump on sort of chaos and how emotional he can be. Watch this.
I personally think President Trump was the right president at the right time. I agree with a lot of his policies. But the reality is, rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. And we all know that's true. Chaos follows him. And we can't have a country in disarray and a world on fire and go through 4 more years of chaos. We won't survive it. And you don't defeat Democrat chaos with Republican chaos.
You said rightly or wrongly, chaos follows him. Is it rightly or wrongly? Is he the one who causes that chaos, or is he just the unwitting victim?
It's both. I mean, you see a lot of these cases they've brought against him are political in nature. And there's no basis on it. And then you see some that he's gonna have to answer for. But look, I'm not telling you anything I used to tell him. I used to tell him he's his own worst enemy. And so I think at the end of the day, we don't need anyone who's getting in their feelings. We don't need anyone that's getting personal about anything. We have a country to save. And that means no more drama.
Okay, I respect her trying to sort of turn around the everyday misogyny that you see on the right by presenting Trump as a guy who's too emotional to lead or whatever. But aside from that, that was terrible, and it's exactly what we've been talking about. That these are not serious attempts to beat him. Rightly or wrongly, which is it? Both. It's both. I'm not gonna say what. And some of that stuff, it just sort of happened to him. And then there are other things that he'll have to answer for. I mean, who's Nikki Haley to point out which those are? She's only trying to defeat him in a presidential race. You just move on. You're saying that he has left chaos around the world in his wake, and some of those things he'll have to answer for. Cite your sources. You're trying to beat this guy. And if you don't beat him, you're done in the Republican Party. Do they not know what the stakes are here? Maybe she's got a backroom deal with him to be VP. That I think does really explain the behavior that we're seeing here. Because if I was an employee working for Nikki Haley, if I was a donor to Nikki Haley, I would have some harsher questions than Aaron Burnett for her based on what we're seeing.
She's just trying to seem reasonable. And the reason why, John, they won't go for the jugular, first of all, as Jackson pointed out, they can't out-Trump Trump. Secondly, though, they want his voters just in case. And they know that just in case, something has to happen to Donald J. Trump for there to be a just in case for these people. So they're hedging just in case. They don't want to alienate the Trump mega following, just in case something happens, and that they can emerge as a stronger contender in that primary. That is why, and the woman has no conviction. I mean, right president at the right time in 2020, but chaos follows him everywhere he goes. Which is it, Governor Haley? Because you absolutely cannot have it both ways. Either he's an agent of chaos and was never good for this country, which is hard for her to say since she served under him or with him. She can't say that. But you cannot say it's no more time for chaos and he takes things personally. Hell, we need, not him, but if more elected officials took what was happening to their constituencies personally, maybe we would move some legislation that changes material conditions.
Not only does she lack conviction, but another reason that Republicans can't effectively go after Trump is because they would be going after themselves. Because you look at them and it's like, oh, I voted with Trump 98% of the time, 87% of the time. So they can't really do it because they're the ones also who push for the culture wars constantly.
Yeah.
But if there was somebody with conviction, and again, it would be effective because Donald Trump, all you said, look, he's a joke, he's a clown. While he was in office, the entire country shut down for a whole year and millions of people lost their jobs. He didn't do anything but tweet and golf. And just go through and just well, see, again, if you talk about the tax cut, that's what they wanted. But other than that, they could say that's all he did. He did nothing else. He had no replacement for Obamacare. Donald Trump is legitimately about to run one of the worst general election campaigns anyone has ever seen. And he's just gonna like all of a sudden, it's like, whoa, his campaign really sucks. And y'all could have been saying this for months, but you didn't. Yeah. But Lindsey Graham's quote, I will never stop saying it. What he says, something about if we let Donald Trump win, he'll destroy the party or something along those lines. And it's the truth because What are you going to do after Donald Trump? Even if he wins in 2024, there's got to be a next. The dude's in his, he's the same age as Joe Biden at the end of the day, pretty much. So yeah, it's just a political disaster that unfortunately we all have to suffer through.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the Lindsey Graham quote. I have not thought about that in a little while. And I think it was if we choose him as the nominee. But I would add, if you choose him as the nominee and then all of you spend the next 4 years helping to buttress the narratives that any of his failures on policy are caused by the deep state, any of the crimes he's committed he's being framed for, any bad news that comes out about him, that's the fake news media. They all constructed a suit of Iron Man armor for him that any criticism or consequences he's immune from. They built that. It was Lindsey Graham and Nikki Haley and Chris Christie and Ron DeSantis and all of those who just laid down and kissed his feet for 4 years. They produced the behemoth that they can't take down and don't seem to even be trying. And the race isn't over or anything. She could do well in New Hampshire or something. This thing isn't over, but I feel like Andy is getting ready to sing closing time. And they don't seem to understand how close to done this thing is.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.